Hi, Andrew Connolly from Scituate's very own SCTV, and today we are at the Garden Club's annual plant sale. I've been getting into gardening myself. I have 2 perennials out in my front yard, so we're going to go around and see how I can make my plants better and see what people are also selling at the plant sale. I am here with Marla Minier, the Vice President of the Garden Club. Marla, can you tell us about the plants we have here, how many we got, what we've got?
Oh, we have thousands of plants. We have about 3,500. We did a count the other day. 1,400 tomato plants, perennials from the gardens of our members, perennials that also are beautiful that were purchased by some members. We have annuals that were grown in members' basements. It's just an incredible effort by everybody. It's really terrific.
Now, can you give us a little history of the Garden Club, how long it's been running, if you know who started it and why it was started?
The Garden Club is 103 years old.
Wow.
We had a big celebration for our 100th anniversary 3 years ago. I guess it was started by some women who loved plants and wanted to have a reason to get together about plants.
All right, besides just the annual plant sale, what else do you guys do all year? Is there a way someone can join? How many members are there? Can people just show up and start planting?
We have 60 members, 60 active members, and then there are some who are associates or people who no longer can fulfill the duties. Our meetings, we have 2 open meetings a year, usually November and April. And to join, you need to be nominated by a club member, but it's not hard. And we would like to have new members.
Would you nominate me?
Yeah, I probably would. Here we have some projects that we work for the town. We donate a lot to the town. We have the herb garden at the Cudworth House. We have the wildflower garden, which is behind me, and maybe you'll take a walk through in a little while. That's maintained by the Garden Club. We do the window boxes at the post offices, planters at the town library. We do floor arrangements for the Historical Society, for the library. We do have a junior program, garden therapy for seniors, lots of educational programs with the schools. We do a lot for the town.
We're here with Kathy Donahue, who's going to show us some of the plants we have at the plant sale. Kathy?
Good morning. Great. One of our big features of our garden plant sale is our Hosta Collection. What we have is from members' gardens, and we have the giant ones that they're very desirable in the garden. Then we go down to minis, little ones that are great, say, for a little Asian garden or just a small space. So we have blue ones, we have variegated ones, we have pointed leaves, we have round leaves. You name it, we've got it.
These are all hostas?
These are all hostas.
And that's what they're called? That's the name of the actual plant?
Big and small. And in fact, last year, for our 100th anniversary, we had a hosta hybridized. It's called Scituate Sunrise, and it's a small yellow leaf hosta. And we're all growing those, and we hope to be selling those in the next year or two because it's a special Scituate Sunrise hosta.
How do you go about hybridizing a plant?
It's, I don't know.
I'm sure there's a lot of science that goes into it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of science, and it's a lot of tissue culture.
Tissue culture?
Yeah. Don't push it.
We're here with Kathy McCormick, who's going to show me some of these perennials. Can you tell me about the perennials and how many there are?
Well, each member has been asked to bring in at least 10 perennials, so we have over probably 1,000 perennials here, between shrubs, perennials, and daylilies. So it's a wonderful group and everyone's really worked hard over the last 10 years from when we had things brought into little cups into really well-proportioned perennials. And we put them in alphabetically, and so, it took a couple of days to get them all together. And everyone had brought in their perennials on Wednesday, so Wednesday is when this whole thing started to get together. So,
well, all these plants are for sale. How much does an average plant cost? How much?
It can be anywhere from $4 to, I think, maybe $18 for some choice perennials.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Way better than going to the store and buying flowers.
Exactly. And, again, all of these have been donated by our membership. So, the cost of that is all to our benefit for our educational fund.
Now, are there any on this table right here that you yourself have grown? Is there anyone we could see?
But this is a great shade perennial. comes back every year, and it's deer resistant, and that's I think a big thing that people.
Deer resistant?
Deer resistant.
Is it deer resistant?
They don't like it. They won't eat it.
Really?
Unlike our hosta, which is deer candy. So I wasn't sure when we got here whether or not the deer would be here.
Why they didn't?
No. And again, when people come, they love to see things that are in blossom. So those are always the first things that sell. There are wonderful things here that are pollinators. Mm-hmm. Again, the Garden Club likes to be very natural, so we're trying to get people to grow things that will attract bees, will attract butterflies, will attract birds. All of those we're looking for in our garden. So as you go down here, you see some wonderful color. Again, I think the color is wonderful, but also you're looking for things that are not going to bloom right now, but things that are going to bloom later. The big thing these days are called heucheras or coral bells. Mm-hmm. Again, they're grown more for their leaf than for their, this is their blossom, which is fairly insignificant. And this is Nepeto, which is bee balm. Wonderful plant.
Does that have anything to do with bees?
It does. It attracts bees.
Now, is this a cactus right here?
That's, yes, that's a Puntia humifosa. This is actually, would you believe it or not, this is a New England cactus.
That's a thing?
Yeah, you can grow this in your garden. You could find it in a seaside area. It likes to grow in sandy soil, and it's a native cactus, which people don't even think of having. So
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
My last question is, can you tell us the history of the shirt, or the flower on the shirt? You just gave us a little history lesson there. And,
yeah.
It's interesting.
This is the columbine, which is our logo for our wildflower garden. Again, columbine is a native perennial. Mm-hmm. It's in the columbine family, but this is the native columbine. So years ago when we were saying, let's find what our logo is, we had Marcia Hoare, who's one of our wonderful members and also an artist, and she drew the columbine, and that's become our logo for, you'll see it all around on our aprons, on our shirts. We have totes. Mm-hmm. So, anything, when we had our, parties, we often have the columbine as our logo. So it's been probably, maybe 20 years it's been our logo.
Last question, can you tell me about the hat? Did you make it yourself?
I did make it myself. I made it this morning, and actually Cindy McEachran and myself were in Art and Bloom, which is at the Museum of Fine Arts, and that was 2 weeks ago, where we had a project to do, a shoki, which is a Japanese silk painting that we had to do. So these actually are from Art and Bloom. These are the anthurium, and it's the last orchid that was there from our Art and Bloom project. So this morning when I was thinking, oh yes, the royal wedding.
Were you up to watch the royal wedding?
I was, yeah. I've been up since 4:30 this morning.
Yikes.
So this is an Art and Bloom, nod to that as well.
It's a lovely hat. How long did it take to make?
Not too long. I started with something else, and then I said, oh my gosh, I'll try this. And I have these wonderful little stick things that stick everything together. And I looked for plant material that was very light and easy to wear. So,
well, it looks awesome. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Plants aren't the only thing at this sale. We also have a big raffle. We are here with Cindy McEachran. Am I pronouncing that right?
Correct.
All right. Can you show me what we have in this raffle?
Sure. These are my assistants.
Hello, Kathleen. Nice to meet
Kathleen
you.
and Muriel Long. And we put together a raffle that featured Scituate only, with the internet and so many other things that are going on in the world. A lot of people forget about our beautiful Scituate Harbor merchants and all the little cottage industries. So we decided to feature just Scituate only.
Can we show us what we got?
All of these, we have this front porch pies.
That looks incredible.
We have Kennedy's, we have Vinette's Studio, we have Rossman's Studio Pottery, Kennedy's, Jerry Pilata, who's a local author. This beautiful girl, Becky O'Toole, has her paintings. Joy was wonderful to me. One of our club members' husband made the sign Scituate, which fits in so perfectly, the quad
Great
board.
sign.
And who doesn't want Untold? You guys better buy a raffle ticket for Untold. You're not old enough, but maybe we'll get somebody. 6 months. Lucky Finn gave me a t-shirt and 2 lattes. The Pretty Bar, we have Kennedy's. Coldbrook Pottery, another cottage industry nobody knows is around. Jenny Dane, the Chocolatier. Birch Barn, and Gail Dignam, the florist.
This is all one raffle.
This is all, well, Every item is a raffle. So they're $1 a piece.
Oh, okay, I see. I thought the entire set was a raffle. One raffle.
You love it all. It'd be like Christmas.
Yeah, well, they all look amazing. The plant sale is now about to begin. The customers are starting to roll in, and now they're having their big meeting to jazz themselves up before they start selling all these flowers.
Hi, I'm Barbara Cox. I am a former president of the Garden Club, and this year I'm in charge of the daylilies. The daylilies are fabulous plants. They bloom at different times of the summer. Great show. Again, they're daylilies, so the blossom only lasts for one day, but they send up multiple shoots.
One day?
One day, daylily.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. They're great plants. Most of our plants come from a grower here in Scituate, Stephen Tooker. He's very generous in giving us lots of his tubers to separate and to plant. So our members took them just as little things out of the ground. They've separated them. We've grown them for the last couple of months. But they're great, easy to take care of plant. They love it here in the salt air in Scituate. We in our own garden have tons of them. And there's all sorts of great colors, purples and pinks. And I buy mine by the fabulous names.
Does that only last one day?
Yeah, well, but each plant sends off. They probably each plant a different day. Yeah, they send off shoots, so it blooms probably a couple of weeks each plant.
So how would I go about planting one of these? Would I want to plant it in the fall before the winter sets in, or do you want to plant it like right in the beginning of spring?
Nope, you want to plant it right in the beginning of spring.
All right.
This weekend is a great time to buy your plants and put them in the ground.
Now, does it like a lot of sunshine? Does it like the shade? Is it good in cold temperatures?
It likes a lot of sunshine, but it'll do. We have some of ours in partial shade, and they do fine there too. It'll put a bigger show on if you've got a lot of sunshine.
We are here with Ariel McLeod, and she's in charge of the annuals. Ariel, can you tell me about these annuals, how to go about planting them, and basically the general how to plant them?
Okay, basically, any of the ones with flowers, you can almost always depend on them to be in the sun.
Always in the sun.
Well, that feeds them. It gives them what they need. We've got them split up so that if girls come along and they want to make a container, we've got thrillers, spillers, fillers. Okay, the thrillers are the tall ones. Put them in the center, and then you can put the smaller ones around it. And in addition to that, you would want something that fell over the edge. That's a spiller.
Tell me basically from day one how to plant these annuals. Do you want to start in the fall? Do you want to start in the beginning of spring? You already said it needs a lot of sunlight. How much water does it need?
And some warmth. We haven't had warmth this year.
Pretty cold. It's May 18th. It's about 50 degrees out right now.
Exactly. It can't be lower than 50. And some of them, the coleus down here, the brightly colored, they're more tropical. And they want it between 55 and 60.
Okay.
So you can't put them out in the real cold. They just will not do well. They'll die probably.
So have these been grown inside of greenhouses and stuff?
Greenhouses in my cellar. My cellar, my windowsills, my everything. They're just put everywhere.
So on an average year, would you start in the spring? Is that when you put the seeds in the ground?
No.
Fall?
You can start the seeds in the house earlier.
Oh.
And then they get a start. You bring them out when they're a little bit bigger, and then they can take off with the spring.
So you can tell I don't know anything about planting.
All right. We didn't either when we started. Everybody has to learn somehow.
Now, how long have you been a member of the garden club?
Oh, good grief. I'd say 10 years.
Really? We're here with Cindy, and she is going to tell us about all the tomatoes she grew from scratch. Can you tell us from day one how you started doing this?
Well, they are seeded in the second week in March, and I seed them in flats, and then in all different varieties. We have cherries and medium size and extra large and all different colors, from red to yellow to orange. And so then they grow in my family room for about 4 weeks, and then the garden club gals come and we transplant them in my barn, and then from there they go into the cold frame and they live for the next 6 weeks in the cold frame.
Okay, awesome. So you have to start in March. You have to start when it's a bit chilly out still?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, you transport them after about 4 weeks, you said, to the ground, right?
Yeah, you
now, transplant them, sorry. And so do tomatoes themselves need a lot of sun, or can it like survive with a bit of cold?
They do need to have cooler nights, like in the 40s.
Really? Because most plants I've seen, they need a lot of sunlight or they're going to not make it, but... So tomatoes.
The cold frame is open to the light. It has plastic over it, but the light goes through. And so on warm days, you open the cold frame up, and on cooler days, you leave the plastic over it, and the sun makes it warm. It's just...
Now, do you, besides the plant sale, do you sell these tomatoes to farmers markets or just grocery stores, or do you just use them for your own meals?
I started growing them just for myself, and now we grow them for the plant sale.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy. We're here with Nancy, who's going to be telling us about geraniums. Now, what is a geranium? That's a bit of a mouthful.
They're an annual in our part of the world, and these here that you see are called fancy geraniums because of the leaves.
Not because they look fancy?
Yeah, don't they look fancy?
They do.
And they go through the summer, and then you take cuttings, like from here, and put them in either a glass of water till the roots come, or you put them in soil, potting soil, and keep them over the winter. If you have the proper good window, they in sun. Geraniums always like sun.
Sun.
Yeah.
So could it last from the shade? Could it take some of the cold, or would it not make it from that?
It would no. If you want to do it that way, you could bring it in, put it in your cellar, hang it upside down, and then yeah, that's what they do. For some reason they do, or just keep it in the. It gets dry, but you watch it and don't put too much water on it through the winter, and then bring it up in the spring and cut it down, and see what happens. Sometimes they'll die down there, but if there's life in them, but the cuttings, the way they do, the ladies have light gardens, they call them in the winter, for use in the winter, and they put them in there all from February or March, in that vicinity, to a couple of days ago, and grow them. So you see how big they are, and they're all from cuttings.
Now, what is the average lifespan? What time do they actually bloom out of the ground? I know you have to transplant them outside.
Yeah.
But what time? So do they emerge in March, or do they last till like September? Or?
They last till September, but they will not be doing things till late June to July.
July.
June and July and September. They work all through the summer.
I think they're looking good now.
But these are the ones that have been under lights.
That's right, under lights.
Under lights and with warmth, not hot, but warmth.
Is there one around here that hasn't been under light that's still growing?
These are all lights.
These are all
because these ladies that are growers did it this way. I don't have a light garden, and I put it in the window, and I have poor luck because the heat gets in the house, doesn't keep it going well. So these are all from lights, these ones.
We're with Dawn Salvatore of Bee Nice. We all know that bees are very important to the environment, but can you tell us what this program's about?
Sure. When people think of bees, they think of honeybees. You think of a hive of tens of thousands of bees. Getting stung because there are bees that their job is to protect the hive. Yes. These are solitary bees. Solitary bees don't make a hive. Each bee is a queen and the only worker. And what she does is she will go out to a flower and mess around the flower, get some nectar and some pollen, bring it back to a cavity. She either, depending on the type of bee, she'll make a cavity in the ground, actually dig a hole, or they find a cavity in wood, maybe made by a beetle or whatever, or a hollow stem from an old bush, and she'll go in there and put some pollen and nectar and lay an egg on it, and then close it up, and then do it again and again and again until that hole is filled. She caps it off, and then she leaves. And these are excellent pollinators. So you don't have a lot of bees in one area. You don't have the tens of thousands that you'd have for honeybees. But these are native bees, and they evolved with our plants and our climate, whereas the honeybee was brought into this country in the 1600s. They're more of a Mediterranean bee.
I didn't know that.
That's right. Really? Yeah, and that's usually the only bee people know about, but it's not native. So we've got about 350 to 400 solitary bees, and they are very good pollinators. They work much harder than a honeybee. They can, depending on the bee, they can pollinate as much as, one bee could pollinate as much as 360 honeybees. But you usually get a lot more honeybees in an area than solitary bees.
Someone's more likely to see a honeybee on a flower than an actual solitary bee?
Well, not now, because honeybees are in trouble. There aren't as many people are losing honeybees hives left and right. So I know that there are days in my yard I'll see lots of solitary bees, many different types, but no or very few honeybees.
How do you tell the difference between the two?
Some of them, they're very easy to tell. Some of them are, for instance, a bumblebee is not solitary, but they're one of our native bees. Something that looks like them is a carpenter bee. It's pretty big. It's obvious it's not a honeybee. Some of them are small, even as small as a mosquito, some of these bees. Other ones look quite a bit like honeybees. So with all the different types, they're, as I say, some of them look like honeybees and some of them don't. Some of them are very brightly colored, iridescent colors. Some of them are more dark, somber colors. So, but once you see a honeybee, you recognize it, you see it often enough, then you can pick that out from the ones that look similar.
What is this whole demonstration here? What's with the tin cans and the pencils?
So in order to encourage solitary bees in your yard, which we want to do because they are very good pollinators, you provide them with certain things. And one thing you provide them with is holes. Mm-hmm. The ground nesting solitary bees, we're not providing them holes. What you would do is leave a patch of your ground bare where they can dig in it. But the hole nesting solitary bees, we can make houses for them. For instance, you can do something as simple as take a piece of wood and drill holes in it. Really? And they'll come and find this.
Live in there?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they will. Or we have, people can make houses simply out of a can and piece of paper. So you just take one of these pieces of paper, wrap it around a pencil. Mm-hmm. You tape it so that one end is closed, like I have here, fold it over, close, and the other end is open.
The end.
Yep, and this is just regular paper. Stick it in a can. You want anything from the size of a regular pencil down smaller, and they will find this and nest in here.
So a bunch of them could all live in that same can?
They can all live in the same can, yes. Right. Now here I have Phragmites reed. This is a reed that nobody likes. It's an invasive reed, and we all think, what a waste, let's get rid of this. But we could put it to use by cutting these and putting them in a can, and there's a solitary bee house. So you want to attach this to the south side of the house where it gets the early morning sun. The bees will get up early in the morning, come and do their work, pollinate the flowers, lay their eggs in here, and then they leave. And then the egg will hatch, eat the pollen and nectar, and pupate, turn into a cocoon usually, depending on the type of bee. And then next year, they hatch out and do it again and again.
So where should someone put this in their yard if they want to help out?
The best place to put it is under an overhang, someplace where it's protected from the rain on the south side. As I said, you get the early morning sun, southeast side, get up early, get them working for you as well as for themselves, and that's about it.
We're here with Colleen Burke. Colleen, can you tell me about this pig here?
Yes, this is an American guinea hog. He was born in March, and he's one of two piglets that were born to a first-time mother, a sow. So the daddy is at home at the Acres to Grow farm with his harem of female American guinea hogs. So we only have one male, and then this is a boy that, like I said, was born in March. He's pretty big because he's only one of two. I'm thinking like 40 to 30 pounds right now, and he's about 3 months old.
Really?
He's still nursing. He's really close to his mom, so they're mama boys. Yeah, they love their mama.
Would you say this pig has personality?
Yes, this one does. He's super mellow, and most of the pigs would squeal and cry while you're holding them. This is Wallace. Yes, he has a name, and he's going to be shown at the Marshfield Fair by one of the 4-H members. Yeah, he's definitely one of the cutest, mellowest, sweetest ones that will just sit on your lap.
Now, how long does it take to him to fully grow? How long is it going to take? And what's the final size of him going to be?
So the final size for him could be about 300 pounds.
Jesus.
We'll take 2 to 3 years for them to reach full maturity.
Still just a little baby. What's your group? And what's
so we are the South Shore Evergreen 4-H, and I started it for my son Timmy, who wanted to do an activity and had gone to a 4-H camp. And we had goats, and we had chickens, and we had the pigs. So all we needed were kids that wanted to love them and hold them and hang out with them and learn about them.
Now, how can someone contact you and get a part of this group?
So we are only on Facebook, and I guess by email, South Shore Evergreen 4H at gmail.com.
4H?
4H. So what are the 4H's?
Head, heart, health,
You know. Head.
Hands, health, hay.
No.
Head, hands, heart, health.
Health. It is health, yes. So the idea is that the kids show animals, that they participate in taking care of them, and then they also do community events like this, and they do visual presentations. They also are going to do a garden club this year with sunflowers and zinnias and things like that. And then they actually are hatching their own chickens. We do fun things. We went to a poultry show. We're probably going to D.C. to stay at the 4-H National Center.
That's a thing?
Yeah. It's a hotel that only 4-H members can stay at in D.C.
Wow.
And yep, it's beautiful. And then we're going to have a overnight camping at my house at the farm. So they're going to sleep with their animals in a tent.
We do
goat yoga.
Also, a few.
Can you explain goat yoga to me?
So goat yoga is the way of stretching your body and your mind and smiling when you're holding an animal, a goat.
No, the goats.
The goats climb on you. It can be funny. You're stretching your smile. It's making you laugh.
Well, that was a great event. I learned so much about plants, but I forgot to go buy my own plants, so I got to go do that quick before they all sell out. I'm Andrew C. from SCTV.